If you're watching this right now, pause for just a second. Imagine staring into the eyes of a beast so powerful it could tear an armored soldier in half. But then, it whispers your name. If that chills your spine, make sure to like this video, comment your thoughts as you listen, and subscribe for more true human fear stories that prove why we're called the galaxy's most dangerous species. The creature's roar rattled the observation glass, a guttural thunder that reverberated down the sterile metal corridors of the Archon Research Dreadnought. Its breath fogged the containment field, revealing curved fangs, each the length of a human forearm, slick with acidic saliva. White fur, matted with dried alien blood, bristled along its towering frame as it hurled itself once more against the glowing plasma bars. Sparks erupted where its claws struck, sizzling across the reinforced floor. Behind the observation deck's shielded wall, 4 Archon guards shifted nervously, their digitigrade feet scraping the grated platform. One leaned closer to his comrade, mandibles clicking in disbelief. "It slaughtered an entire hunter squad in under 6 minutes, he rasped, chitin throat vibrating with horror. "They said it ripped their commander's exosuit apart with its jaws." "Keep your distance," another hissed, his compound eyes narrowing. "If the field fluctuates again, you won't even have time to scream." Dr. Eric Vance stood slightly apart, silently observing the predator. His lab coat, worn at the cuffs, seemed absurdly thin compared to the armored guards flanking him. Tall, with dark hair streaked with premature silver and an angular face lined by long months of off-world research stress, he looked less like a xenobiologist and more like a man who had forgotten Earth's sun. His eyes, however, burned with a quiet intelligence that often unnerved the Archon overseers. The creature paused mid-lunge, its massive chest heaving. Slowly, it turned its massive head toward the viewing glass. Yellow eyes flecked with molten gold locked onto Eric. A tremor passed down his spine. For a brief, impossible moment, the predator's feral snarl shifted, its lips twitching in what almost seemed like recognition. "Specimen 71382, droned the Archon commander beside Eric, her voice metallic and impassive. "Native designation unknown. Captured in Quadrant 17 after eliminating Ctheran raiding party. Preliminary analysis indicates it possesses carbon composite dentition, subdermal bone plating and mass-enhanced musculature. Bidding will commence after behavioral suppression protocols are finalized." "Behavioral suppression," Eric murmured almost to himself. "You mean lobotomy?" The commander's mandibles flexed in amusement. "Your species' sentimental lexicon is irrelevant here, human." Inside the cell, the predator shifted again. Its gaze had not left Eric, even as alien technicians scuttled around its cage, adjusting plasma emitters and recalibrating shock nodes embedded in the floor. The beast's breath came slower now, controlled, as though it had abandoned futile rage in favor of calculated observation. Eric exhaled shakily, forcing his mind back to clinical detachment. The creature stood on 4 legs, each limb corded with muscle beneath shaggy white fur streaked with gray-black patterns. Its shoulders rose higher than Eric's head, and its tail, thick as a tree trunk, lay curled behind it like a serpent waiting to strike. But it was the creature's eyes that rooted him to the deck, eyes that burned with intelligence rather than blind animal fury. He reached for his datapad, flicking through readings projected into the air before him. Heart rate, elevated but stable. Neural activity, erratic spikes inconsistent with baseline predator profiles. Vocalization logs, mostly infrasound growls, subharmonic threat signals, but, he frowned, scrolling further, repetition patterns consistent with attempted speech mimicry? "Doctor," the Archon commander snapped. "Remain focused. Your task is to extract genetic viability data for clone replication. Nothing more." "I understand," Eric replied absently, though he wasn't listening. He moved closer to the containment glass, ignoring the alarmed chittering of nearby guards. The predator tracked him with unnerving precision. Its ears flicked back, lips curling into a silent snarl, revealing overlapping rows of serrated teeth. But it made no move to lunge this time. "You're not just muscle and teeth, are you?" Eric whispered, so softly the translator node in his collar didn't even register it. The creature tilted its massive head, almost canine in the gesture, though there was an alien sharpness to its bone structure that sent primal warnings through his hindbrain. Its golden eyes seemed to burn brighter for a moment, slitted pupils widening minutely. "Step back, human," the commander ordered, her taloned hand hovering over the containment override. "If it attempts sonic disruption again, we will vent the cell and harvest salvageable tissues only." Eric ignored her. The readings flashed across his vision. language centers illuminated in the creature's brain scans, not just reactive regions. It understood. It processed. A thought flickered across his mind, a childhood memory of reading old declassified files about Earth's corporate wars, and rumors of apex predator bioengineering to terraform and hold extreme environments. Officially, such programs were terminated due to instability. But what if? The creature shifted forward until its muzzle nearly touched the crackling plasma field. Its nostrils flared, inhaling his scent. Eric's breath hitched. Its lips moved, curling around guttural, grinding syllables. Static popped as the alien suppression field flickered from the proximity of its fangs. Ik. The name slithered out as a broken growl, grinding through vocal cords never meant for human speech. The Archon commander recoiled, mandibles clacking in alarm. Guards raised their shock lances, powering them with a rising whine. But Eric heard nothing except the impossible sound of his own name in that primal voice. He stumbled backwards, his datapad clattering to the floor. Did you hear that? He gasped, eyes wide with something between horror and awe. The predator didn't move. Its eyes locked onto his, unblinking, unafraid. It opened its jaws slightly, blood-stained fangs glinting under the cell's harsh lights, and exhaled with a low rumble that vibrated the deck plates beneath Eric's boots. Rick, it rasped again, softer this time as if repeating a memory long dormant. A tremor passed through the Archon ranks. The commander bared her mandibles in a silent snarl. Impossible. It must be neural leakage from the translator grid. Reset the suppression field. Prepare termination protocols. Eric shook his head violently. No, that's not an echo. It's speaking. It knows my name. It is a beast, she snapped, eyes flashing iridescent blue in agitation. Nothing more. But as the guards moved to obey, the predator's eyes narrowed. A deep growl began low in its chest, rattling the reinforced walls. Plasma bars flickered dangerously as its rage built again. Yet its gaze remained locked on Eric's trembling form, and in those molten gold eyes, Eric saw not just rage nor primal instinct. He saw recognition. He saw loyalty. And he saw an ancient sorrow deeper than the abyss between stars. He swallowed, unable to tear his eyes away. For reasons he could not yet name, one thought burned through his mind with searing clarity. It knows me, and I think I know it too. Alarms began to wail, echoing down the metallic halls like a chorus of dying sirens. The predator's growl rumbled deeper, vibrating the observation deck under Eric's boots. Archon guards scrambled to recalibrate the plasma containment as the beast pressed forward, its massive shoulders bunching with tense muscle under stained white fur. Rick, it growled again, each syllable grating through its alien throat with unmistakable intent. It was not a mimicry. There was meaning buried in that broken voice. Seal the chamber, barked the Archon commander, mandibles clattering with agitation. Her chitinous fingers flew across her wrist console, initiating lockdown subroutines. Red emergency glyphs pulsed along the walls. Guards raised their shock lances, their multi-jointed limbs trembling with primal fear. Eric didn't move. His breath came in ragged gasps, each exhale clouding against the reinforced glass. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to flee, to hide from the apex predator staring into his soul. But a deeper instinct rooted him in place. The instinct that whispered of a forgotten bond, of ancient loyalty twisted by time and corporate secrecy. Dr. Vance, step away, the commander ordered, antennae quivering with impatience. This creature is unstable. Vocalization protocols have failed. Termination is authorized. No, Eric snapped, surprising himself with the raw desperation in his voice. Don't you see? It's trying to communicate. It is a beast, she spat. A dangerous biological weapon. Eric turned his gaze to the creature. Its chest rose and fell with labored breaths, the golden flecks in its eyes swirling like trapped suns. Blood dripped from a plasma burn across its shoulder, sizzling against the deck. Its ears flicked back, flattened in a posture that spoke not of defiance, but submission. Its muzzle moved again, forming words that tore at Eric's chest with each strained syllable. Home, Peck Eric, Alpha. The last word nearly stopped his heart. Alpha. The designation from old Fenrir Initiative logs, buried under blacked-out paragraphs and classified clearance codes. He had read them years ago while researching failed Terran uplift experiments, never imagining he would hear it spoken by living lips. What did it just say? A guard stammered, mandibles trembling. Eric swallowed hard. It called me Alpha. Enough, snarled the commander. Her clawed hand hovered over the termination sequence, glyphs flaring under her touch. Execute neural lance strike. The predator's eyes snapped to her, and a low snarl rippled through its chest. Sparks erupted as its claws dug into the plating. But it did not lunge. It only pressed closer to Eric, golden gaze pleading. Wait, Eric shouted, stepping forward so abruptly that two guards jerked their lances towards him. Don't do this. It recognizes me. Thinks I'm its pack leader. The commander hesitated, mandibles flexing. Explain. This isn't a wild animal. This is a product of Terran engineering. The Fenrir Initiative. They weren't just making bioweapons. They were creating loyal apex guardians for off-world colonies. They were programmed to recognize command pheromones, neural signatures, voice patterns. It's identifying me as its alpha because of genetic memory markers in its design. Human myths, she scoffed, though her eyes darted uneasily to the creature. Even if your primitive corporations attempted such folly, it is irrelevant. This beast has slaughtered dozens. Its value lies in its tissue samples and combat data, not in illusions of loyalty. The predator let out a deep, mournful sound that rattled Eric's ribcage. Its ears drooped, muzzle brushing the plasma field until its whiskers sizzled. Pain rippled across its features, but it held its ground, refusing to back away. Its massive tail lay curled around its hind legs, a gesture of submission Eric recognized from canine behavioral studies. Look at it, he whispered, voice cracking. Does that look like a mindless killer to you? It's terrified. Confused. It thinks I can save it. The commander's mandibles twitched with irritation. Enough sentimentality. Guards, prepare termination strike. The predator's golden eyes narrowed. Its hackles rose as arcs of plasma danced along its flanks. Its gaze flicked from the commander back to Eric. A low, vibrating growl built in its throat. Eric felt his heart hammering against his ribs, each beat echoing with clarity. The guards raised their lances. Blue-white light crackled at the tips, humming with lethal power. Eric took a trembling step forward and lifted his hands. Don't, he shouted. If you touch it, you touch me. Under Terran interstellar law, any uplifted species falls under human jurisdiction. You kill it and you violate a dozen treaties. The commander hissed, her compound eyes narrowing to slits. You overstep your rank, human? No, Eric said, his voice low and cold with sudden conviction. You underestimate my species. This creature is human property. You terminate it without clearance, and Earth will strip your mining rights across 3 sectors by tomorrow. Silence fell like a hammer. Even the predator's growl quieted, leaving only the whine of charging lances filling the air. The commander's mandibles flickered with frustration. Her antennae twitched as she recalculated probabilities, political fallout matrices dancing behind her gaze. Finally, with a disgusted click, she lowered her clawed hand. Deactivate lances, she ordered. Stand by for further orders. The guards hesitated, then obeyed. The humming ceased. The predator's shoulders sagged with relief, though blood still trickled down its flank, dripping onto the metal deck with slow, heavy splatters. Eric exhaled shakily. His legs felt like water. He pressed his palm to the glass, staring into those glowing eyes. Slowly, the predator leaned forward until its massive head nearly touched his hand. A deep rumble reverberated through its chest, so low it was almost below human hearing. The same sound, Eric realized dimly, that dire wolves made when greeting trusted pack members. Alpha, it whispered, so softly that Eric felt the word more than heard it. A guard near him shivered. It's talking to him. Like it knows him. Continue observation, the commander ordered tersely. Initiate neural dampeners and prepare it for transport to auction site. We will reconsider termination if behavioral suppression remains viable. The predator's ears flicked back. Its golden gaze remained locked on Eric, following his every subtle shift. Beneath its bloodied fur, muscle rippled with restrained power, but there was no hostility in its posture now. Only a deep, sorrowful devotion that constricted Eric's chest until he could barely breathe. He crouched down so his eyes were level with its massive head. The smell of scorched fur and ionized air made his throat burn, but he didn't care. I don't know who did this to you, he whispered, voice shaking, but I swear I'll find a way to get you out of here. The predator blinked slowly, its golden eyes softening. Then it lowered its massive head until its muzzle rested against the plasma field, as close to his palm as it could reach without burning. Home, it rumbled, eyes closing for a fleeting moment. Soon, Alpha. Eric swallowed hard. His mind raced with 1,000 questions and one unbreakable resolution. Behind him, the Archon guards shifted uneasily. The commander's mandibles twitched as she watched the silent communion between human and beast. Without another word, she turned and stalked away, her clawed feet echoing down the corridor. Eric remained crouched, feeling the creature's deep, vibrating breaths through the containment glass. In its voice, ragged and broken, he heard a promise that transcended language, species, and galactic law. He heard the echo of a bond forged long before either of them was born, buried under centuries of corporate greed and alien conquest. And though he didn't yet understand how or why, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. This was not the end. It was only the beginning. Eric's hands trembled as he pressed them against the cool reinforced glass. The predator's eyes remained closed, its massive head still resting near his palm. For a moment, the chaos beyond the containment field faded. There was only the deep, ragged rhythm of its breaths and the silent roar of realization echoing through Eric's mind. Dr. Vance, the Archon commander's voice crackled through the comm speaker, slicing through the moment like a blade. Step away from the containment cell immediately. He ignored her. His thoughts burned with fragmented memories, old university lectures about genetic loyalty programming, declassified Fenrir Initiative notes, and the fleeting words of his mentor. If they ever resurface, we pray they remember mercy. The predator's ears flicked up. Its golden eyes opened slowly, locking onto his gaze. Something shifted within those molten depths, something ancient and unbreakable. It rumbled, so softly the translator nodes struggled to register the frequency. Protect, Alpha. The words vibrated through the deck. Guards stiffened, their chitinous limbs trembling. The commander snapped an order in rapid Archon dialect. Shock lances powered up, humming with lethal intent. Eric felt his heart seize with terror. No, he whispered, pressing harder against the glass. Don't do this. But it was too late. The predator's fur bristled. Its lips peeled back to reveal overlapping rows of serrated fangs. It rose to its full height, towering over the guards beyond the containment field. The plasma bars flickered as power rerouted to the neural dampeners embedded in its skull. Sparks erupted across its body, filling the chamber with the acrid smell of scorched fur. It roared, a sound that shattered the observation deck's reinforced windows into a spiderweb of fractures. Alarms wailed as red emergency glyphs pulsed across every surface. Guards staggered back, claws clutching their helmets as the sonic shockwave rattled through their carapaces. "Shut it down," screamed the commander. "Initiate termination protocol now." But the predator was already moving. With a primal snarl that shook Eric's bones, it lunged forward, slamming its massive shoulders into the containment field. The plasma flickered, flared, then guttered out in a shower of sparks. Reinforced bars bent like soft metal under its colossal strength. The cell door crumpled inward. The guards fired. Brilliant arcs of blue plasma streaked through the air, slamming into the predator's chest and flanks. Burnt fur and scorched flesh filled Eric's nose, but the creature didn't falter. It surged forward, its claws raking through armored Archon torsos as if tearing through wet paper. Greenish ichor sprayed across the walls. Chitinous limbs scattered across the deck. "Eric!" It was his own voice, torn from his throat in a ragged scream as the predator's tail swept sideways, smashing another guard into the observation window with bone-crushing force. The commander scrambled backward, mandibles wide with a hiss of terror. The predator swung its massive head, eyes locking onto Eric through the cracked glass. Blood dripped from its muzzle, mingling with scorched plasma burns along its neck. Yet in those eyes burned only fierce, unwavering devotion. "Protect, Alpha," it rumbled again. The final containment barrier failed with a shriek of bending alloy. The predator lunged forward, planting itself between Eric and the advancing security squad that had rushed into the observation deck. Its hackles rose, thick white fur bristling in challenge. Eric stumbled back, colliding with a console. Sparks erupted around him. He coughed through the haze of smoke and scorched metal, mind racing for options. Beyond the shattered window, the research dreadnought's hangar loomed, rows of alien dropships and cargo shuttles humming with readiness. The predator crouched low, its muscles bunching under blood-streaked fur. Without warning, it sprang forward, jaws snapping around the nearest armored soldier, flinging him aside with casual brutality. Eric flinched as the guard's body slammed into the far wall, leaving a smear of dark ichor. "Eric," the predator growled again, its massive head turning back to him. Its voice was clearer now, vibrating through frequencies the translator struggled to process. "Run." He hesitated only a heartbeat. Then he sprinted forward, ducking under the Predator's massive forelimb as it swung sideways to shield him from a volley of plasma bolts. The creature roared, the sound deafening within the confined hall. Two guards fell back, clutching their helmets as their internal sensors overloaded. Together they charged down the corridor. Eric's boots slipped in pools of alien blood as he followed the Predator's bounding strides. Emergency sirens pulsed red across the halls, automated bulkheads slamming shut behind them with hydraulic force. They rounded a corner into the hangar bay. The Predator skidded to a halt, claws tearing deep gouges into the alloy floor. Eric stumbled to a stop beside it, chest heaving, lungs burning. Rows of Archon soldiers in heavy exosuits blocked the hangar entrance. Plasma cannons powered up with a rising whine. "Target acquired," barked an Archon mech commander. "Terminate both." The Predator let out a low, bone-vibrating growl. Its tail lashed the deck behind it, denting reinforced plating with each strike. Eric swallowed hard, staring up at the armored giants bristling with weaponry. "This is suicide," he whispered. The Predator flicked its ears back and glanced down at him. For the briefest moment, its savage features softened. Then it rumbled, deep and resonant. "Protect, Alpha, Pack, safe." With a roar that shook the hangar's vaulted ceiling, the Predator charged. Plasma bolts slammed into its shoulders and flanks, each impact exploding in sprays of blood and burned fur. Still it tore forward, jaws snapping down on an exosuit's reinforced leg, ripping through hydraulic pistons and severed power conduits. The suit collapsed with a shriek of sparking systems. Eric stumbled back, frantically scanning the hangar. His eyes locked onto a small shuttle docked at the far end, its ramp partially extended, engines cycling in idle standby. He darted towards it, ducking under a sweeping mech arm that crashed down behind him, smashing crates into molten debris. "Eric!" The Predator's voice, raw and ragged with pain, thundered across the deck. He spun back to see it pinned under two massive exosuits, claws scrabbling against reinforced alloy as power lances slammed into its back. Its golden eyes locked onto his, burning with agony and fierce determination. Blood bubbled between its fangs as it rumbled again. "Alpha, home soon." A mech raised its plasma lance high, power surging at the tip. Eric's heart convulsed with horror. Without thinking, he slapped his wrist console, overriding the shuttle's lock sequence. The ramp dropped with a hiss of venting hydraulics. He turned and sprinted back towards the Predator. Alien soldiers screamed warnings as he dashed past them, sliding to his knees beside the creature's massive head. Its breathing came in ragged gasps, blood pooling beneath its ribcage. "Don't you dare die on me," he whispered, voice shaking as tears blurred his vision. The Predator's eyes fluttered open. Even through the haze of agony, they burned with loyalty. "Alpha, safe," it rumbled. Plasma bolts ricocheted off the deck around them. Eric glanced up at the shuttle. Automated defensive systems hummed to life, scanning for threats. He slammed his palm against the Predator's blood-slicked muzzle. "Get up," he choked out. "Please." The creature's massive tail thumped once against the floor. Then, with a guttural roar, it surged upward, flinging the exosuits off its back. Metal screamed as it tore free, spraying coolant and shattered alloy across the hangar. Eric grabbed a handful of its thick fur as it twisted its massive head towards him. "Go," it growled. Together they charged up the ramp into the shuttle. Eric stumbled inside, slamming his palm against the cockpit override. The ramp retracted with a thunderous clang. Outside, Archon soldiers pounded against the hull as plasma blasts scorched the shuttle's plating. The Predator collapsed onto its side, blood spreading across the deck beneath it. Its massive flanks heaved with each ragged breath. Eric dropped to his knees beside it, cradling its massive head in his lap. Its golden eyes flickered weakly. "Home, soon, Alpha," it whispered. Eric swallowed hard, feeling hot tears spill down his cheeks as the shuttle engines roared to life, lifting them away from the hangar with a juddering lurch. The ship shuddered as defensive turrets fired upon them, but the automated AI routed all power to shields, rocketing them into the void beyond. Eric pressed his forehead to the Predator's blood-matted fur, feeling its faint, vibrating breaths against his chest. Outside the viewport, the Archon dreadnought shrank away into the endless star-strewn darkness. And in that moment, holding the dying warmth of humanity's forgotten child, he swore he would burn entire empires to keep his promise. This was no longer about science. This was no longer about treaties or genetic programs. This was about Pack. And he would never abandon his Pack again. The shuttle hummed with the quiet power of Terran design, its automated systems adjusting course through microbursts of thrusters as it slipped past the Archon dreadnought's defensive grid. Outside the viewport, the void stretched endless and indifferent, lit only by the cold glimmer of distant stars. Eric crouched beside the Predator's massive body, pressing trembling hands against the charred plasma burns marring its flanks. Its white fur, once regal and thick, was matted with dark blood. Each labored breath rattled through its chest like a dying storm. "Stay with me," he whispered, voice cracking as tears blurred his vision. "Please just stay with me." The Predator's golden eyes flickered open, dim yet unbroken. Its muzzle shifted against the deck, lips curling into the faintest of snarls that softened into something almost like a smile. "Alpha, safe," it rasped, each word scraping through ruined vocal cords. Eric brushed a shaking hand along its bloodied cheek, feeling coarse fur under his fingers. The creature's ears flicked back weakly, pressing against its skull in a gesture of trust. In that moment, despite the roar of engines and the distant rumble of automated turrets returning fire, there was only silence between them. A silence filled with unspoken truths and ancient bonds reborn. The console near him blinked with incoming communications. He staggered to his feet, nearly slipping in pooled blood as he activated the feed. The flickering hollow resolved into a stern-faced Terran Navy admiral, her uniform immaculate even through the grainy encryption distortions. "Identify yourself," she ordered sharply. "Dr. Eric Vance, Xenobiology Division, Archon Research Contract 17, he replied, voice shaking. "I have a priority Class 1 bioengineered subject in critical condition. Requesting immediate extraction and medical deployment." Her eyes flicked to the massive silhouette behind him. Even through the static, Eric saw her composure waver. "Is that Fenrir Protocol?" He swallowed. It's one of ours, Admiral." It recognized me as Alpha. It spoke. It remembers. For a moment, silence. Then her gaze hardened with steel resolve. "Transmit your coordinates. Fleet elements are inbound. Keep it alive, Doctor." "That is an order." The feed cut out. Eric exhaled shakily, his chest aching as adrenaline ebbed into raw exhaustion. He turned back to the Predator, who watched him with molten eyes dimmed by pain but alight with something deeper, hope. He dropped to his knees beside its massive head, cradling it against his chest. The Predator rumbled softly, vibrating through his bones with a sound he realized was a purr, broken, ragged, yet filled with contentment despite its wounds. "I'm so sorry," Eric whispered, tears streaking down his soot-stained face. "We made you to fight for us, to die for us, and we left you out there alone." The Predator's tail thumped weakly against the deck. Its gaze never left his face, as if memorizing every line and shadow. "Never alone, Alpha," it rumbled, its voice growing faint, each syllable trembling with effort. "Peck, safe home?" Eric felt a sob rise in his throat. He pressed his forehead against its bloodied muzzle, ignoring the reek of burned flesh and plasma-scoured fur. "Home," he whispered. "I'll take you home. I promise." Warning klaxons blared as the shuttle jolted, atmospheric re-entry flames licking across the viewports. Terran fighter escorts surged alongside them, sleek hulls slicing through the upper stratosphere like hunting falcons. Eric barely registered them. His entire world had narrowed to the dying warmth pressed against his chest. Through the roaring thunder of descent, the Predator stirred again. Its eyes fluttered open, dim gold burning with final determination. "Alpha, protect, Pack, always," it rasped. Eric's tears fell freely now. He felt the trembling breath of the creature fade, its chest stilling under his hands. The shuttle lurched as landing thrusters fired, slamming them down onto a steel platform with a scream of strained hydraulics. Emergency lights bathed the cabin in harsh white. The ramp dropped with a hydraulic hiss, revealing a squad of armored Terran Marines and medics sprinting up into the shuttle, weapons scanning every corner before lowering as their visors registered the Predator's lifeless bulk. "Dr. Vance," barked a medic, sliding to his side. "We're here. We've got it. We've got you." Eric didn't move. His hands remained pressed against the Predator's cooling muzzle, his forehead resting against its blood-stained fur. Tears dripped onto the deck, mingling with the dark pool spreading beneath them. "It called me Alpha," he whispered hoarsely. "It remembered me." The medic hesitated, visor flickering as he scanned the readings. Slowly he reached out, pressing 2 fingers against the creature's massive neck. His eyes widened. "It's still alive," he breathed. "Faint vitals. Get the stabilizer rig up here now." Marines rushed forward, unfolding massive carbon steel braces and deploying a hover rig beneath the predator's bulk. Eric stumbled back, arms streaked with blood, as they lifted the creature onto the gurney with hydraulic winches. Its head lolled sideways, golden eyes half open, pupils flickering. "Alpha," it whispered so softly only Eric heard it. Then its eyes closed again as sedative streams hissed into its veins. Outside, an armored convoy waited under the blazing sun of the Terran reclamation platform. Dropships soared overhead. A column of towering Fenrir-class warframes stood in silent salute as the wounded predator passed between them. Eric walked beside the hover rig, his steps slow, each breath ragged with exhaustion and grief and fierce, unbreakable resolve. The convoy rumbled towards the central command dome. Generals waited beyond the blast doors, flanked by intelligence officers and bioweapons compliance marshals. As the predator passed, the soldiers shifted uneasily, hands tightening around weapon grips. Eric felt their fear radiate like heat, but he paid it no mind. Inside the command dome, a vast holomap flickered with fleet movements and orbital deployments. The admiral from the transmission turned as Eric approached, her gaze flicking from his blood-smeared coat to the predator on the gurney. "Dr. Vance," she said quietly, "do you understand what this means?" He nodded numbly, eyes locked on the predator's still form. "It means they're not weapons. They're not experiments. They're family." The admiral studied him for a long moment. Then she turned to her aides. "Prepare the Fenrir Rehabilitation Directive," she ordered. "Effective immediately. Dr. Vance, you will oversee its implementation. These beings were created by humanity. It's time we took responsibility for them." A hush fell over the command dome. Eric felt his chest tighten with a raw ache he hadn't known in years. He reached out, brushing his fingers across the predator's massive paw where it hung limp over the gurney's edge. "I won't fail you again," he whispered. The predator didn't stir, but its tail twitched once beneath the sedative shroud, as if in acknowledgement. Outside, the sky blazed with dawnlight as Terran fighter squadrons streaked overhead, contrails gleaming like the claws of hunting eagles. Eric stood silently beside the creature that had called him Alpha, feeling its faint pulse beneath his fingertips. In that moment he felt something ancient awaken within him, an oath older than species, deeper than language. They had tried to cage the apex predator. They had tried to break its will, erase its purpose, strip it of identity. But when it spoke his name, it became something the galaxy could never again control. It became family. And no force in the universe could stand against a family defending its own. The predator's chest rose with a slow, ragged breath. Its golden eyes flickered open, locking onto his with dim but unbroken resolve. "Home, Alpha," it whispered. Eric smiled through his tears. Around them, the command dome thrummed with activity and distant alarms, but he heard only that voice, ragged, broken, and filled with love. "Yes," he whispered back. "Welcome home."